Welcome back to the VarsityWA Midweek Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Milles. Thanks for joining me. We will start our Around the State installments visiting with reporters in cities around Washington to talk about some of the playoff contenders in those cities and surrounding areas. We will kick that off by talking with Dave Nichols from the Spokesman-Review, spokesman.com. Please visit their site and support good local journalism. We'll talk about some of the really good contending teams, especially Gonzaga Prep, which made the Class 4A semifinals last fall, losing at Camas. And then Matt Evans from Evans Rankings will join us later in the podcast to preview some of the better games in week 2, including the showdown in Bellevue between Lake Stevens and the host Wolverines. They will be playing a non-conference game for the 4th consecutive year, two teams that are always knocking on the door for WIAA championships. So we're going to start here in week 2, kind of an around the horn, around the state preview with hometown reporters. And there's nobody in the state that does it better than this guy, Dave Nichols from the Spokesman-Review. He has Spokane area football nailed down. Dave, thanks for joining the podcast. How's everything going over there, man? Is it cooled down? I heard it was 100 degrees over there, and they were canceling athletic games.
It was mid 90s last week with the fire smoke that we had coming in. Especially some of the county schools had to postpone due to air quality index and that type of thing. But things have the smoke has dissipated. The temperatures are coming down. Highs in the 70s next week. So it's kind of funny how in this region it's like it's summer, slam. Now it's fall, and just like that it turns off. So things will be much more typical weather here in the next coming week.
Well, I'll tell you, I think when the smoke of statewide football clears in November, I fully expect Gonzaga Prep to be a huge part of what happens in Class 4A. What are some of your thoughts after them making it to the state semifinals? They had a real tough road, maybe a little miscast in seeding. They maybe deserved another home game and had to come over and beat Kennedy Catholic, and then had to travel to Camas the next week. A lot of that group is back, all except Noah Holman. But
Right.
what are some of your expectations in year 2 for Nate Graham and this Bullpups program?
I think with the depth, experience, the way they play, their determination after bowing out the way that they did last year, and the chip on their shoulder, I think all of that kind of is building a perfect storm this year. I mean, this is probably the strongest Gonzaga Prep team, except for the very first one that I covered, the one that had Devin Culp and those guys and Sam Lockett, just future NFL players. This team is, as I mentioned, it's experienced at every position. They're bringing back almost every starter, as you mentioned. These guys that are coming up as seniors, they have a picture of last year's final against Camas as their screen lock on their phones. I mean, that's the kind of determination that they have right now. I think Meade will give them a good game in league, but Gonzaga Prep is very clearly the class of our league this year, and I expect them to be in the Final Four again this year.
With the guys that they have on the perimeter, Jonah Keller, Isaiah Dawkin, and you saw it last week. They're maybe trying to pass the ball a little more with Kincaid. How much do you think that they'll fire up the pass game, maybe as opposed to last year, having a returning quarterback under center for year 2?
Well, that's the thing that Coach Graham expressed to me while I was visiting him with him over the summer. He said, "Look, we'll throw it 30 times a game if we have to. We'll throw it 30 times a game if they dare us to." And then he looked at me and says, "Teams aren't going to want us to throw it 30 times a game." They've got an awful lot of talent, as you mentioned, on the outside. They've got a stable of running backs that all kind of do a little bit of different things. You mentioned Nico Alexander is one of their tailbacks. He's a state champ sprinter, right? So they've got that kind of talent. They've got Jimmy Granger, who's a little bit of a bowling ball in the backfield, who will probably take over the Noah Holman role for them this year. And then, oh, by the way, Jacoby McClellan, who pound for pound might be the best football player in the state, is going to be playing on offense this year too. And this is a guy that is a ball hawk on defense and returns. He's going to get a chance to play on the offensive side of the ball this year. I still don't think that they're a passing team. I think they want to live by the bread and butter, by the triple options that they've been running since time immemorial. But they do have guys on the outside, and like we saw from week one. Jonah Keller touches the ball 5 times and he goes for 180 some yards in 5 touches with 3 scores. So they don't have huge guys on the offensive line like they've had in the past, but with the option offense that they run and the confusion that they create, they don't really need to have 290 pounders across the front. So this is a team that on offense is stocked. And this team, the Gonzaga Prep, always plays tough defense. And the other thing that the Bullpups have going for them when it comes to state play is that teams on the West Side don't see this offense, right? Teams on the West Side want to play fast. They want to play 7-on-7 football. They don't expect to run into a running team the way the Gonzaga Prep has always committed doing it. And it has proven, this has been a recipe that has proven in the past to give teams on the West Side fits.
It's every 4A defensive coordinator I talk to when they draw Gonzaga Prep in the playoffs. It's their worst nightmare. I hear the collective, we got to prep for Gonzaga Prep. You're right. It's a proven system that's worked for a very long time. You mentioned Meade. They had talk about a team that got off the bus and looked the part last year. We were both at that game last year when they played Gonzaga Prep, had a halftime lead. And it was a really good football game. Got to the state playoffs, lost that, what was it, 100-90 a game against Lake Stevens in round one of the 4A playoffs. They have a lot of their defensive pieces back, including the Miller kid at linebacker, one of the best defensive ends in the state who's getting some D1 look. What are some of your expectations? Because they obviously have a coaching staff. Kyle Snell has come over from Lewis and Clark, and a new philosophy.
Yeah, no, I was impressed with what Snell did last year at LC. That's a program that is unfortunately churning through coaches, and they're breaking in their third in 3 years this year. But I think Snell is a really good fit for Meade. I hope that he brings some stability there because Meade itself has had trouble retaining coaches and had some issues here, their last several that they've had. So hopefully he brings some stability to that position there. But yeah, no, I like the fit there. He wants Meade to play fast. He wants them to play strong. They've got a transfer coming in from North Central who was the 2A quarterback of the year last year, and Travell Jones, also tremendous basketball player. And they're going to use him in a lot of different ways. They'll use him at receiver. They'll use him at quarterback. Sometimes they'll use him at DB. He'll probably return kicks. I mean, this is a guy that is just a tremendous athlete. But again, when you're talking about Meade, it's going to be predicated on the defense, and if they're going to beat Gonzaga Prep, it'll be by beating them up front. They are bigger and stronger on the line than I think Prep is this year, led by Cooper Daines, their all-league tackle, who is also a basketball player, and he's just a statue there at tackle. When I was out there for practice over the summer, and they were running some pulling plays with him, and he's 6'6" and 280 and can run, runs really well as you would expect a basketball player to be able to run. And just when he's leading on a pulling play, it's really something that defensive backs are going to avoid getting hit by him in that situation.
Let's go to the 3A ranks. I remember Terry Clore after they came over and lost to Mount Tahoma in the round of 32 last year. Just thought physically, some of the better, more physical teams, it was a bad matchup for them. They just weren't, the physicality part was missing or was substandard to what we know from Mount Spokane. A very impressive showing, shutting out CV in week one. I know he said he likes his offensive line. He wants to get back to being physical and run the football. They have some interesting pieces, some guys that can do a little bit of everything. What do you see Mount Spokane maybe in for a rebound year and getting back to the state playoffs and maybe going a round or two?
Well, I think that game was probably, and I was there for that game, was probably my biggest surprise of the week. And two things can be true at the same time, right? I think Mount Spokane is better than they were last year. I think CV is probably maybe not going to have a good year this year. They seem to they're still trying to work a quarterback, and CV looked a little. I'm trying to think of the political word that I would use here, maybe disjointed a little bit. They didn't look like they were all on the same page Friday night, but Mount Spokane looked really good. They've got a first year quarterback in Cade Strocher, again, another basketball player, at 6'5", huge hands. When you shake his hand, it just envelops your hand when you shake his hand. He looked like he had a really good idea about what he wanted to do with the ball. He only threw it 16 times, so it's not like in the years past when Mount Spokane has had a quarterback, they've been accustomed to chucking it 35, 40 times a game, and they didn't ask him to do that. They also ran the ball 25 times, so that is something that Clore told me during the summer, yeah, we're going to run the ball. It's going to be a little bit different. I'm like, yeah, sure, Terry. We've heard the same thing a couple years in a row now, and then he actually came out and did it. So the other thing that they've got going on there now, Rock Franklin, who is their kind of do everything guy. They just unleashed him Friday night. He's fully healthy again. He played offense, played defense, played special teams. He returned 2 punts for touchdowns, and one of them came back because there was a penalty on it. But this is just a guy again. When you get the ball to him in space, he can do a lot of dangerous things, and that's a weapon that that's been missing for a couple of years since Bodie Gardner graduated.
The 2A ranks and Craig Whitney and playoff team, it seems to be synonymous every year at West Valley. They always seem to be one of the 2A teams that has a surplus of big pieces in their lineup. They did lose Austin Clark. They're all conference running back. What are some of your expectations for them in the 2A GSL? And I also hear good things about Rogers of Spokane and their skill position guys. Didn't have a great week one, but some real speed on the perimeter. How do you see that race going?
Sure. Well, you mentioned West Valley, and they are year in and year out one of the best coached teams in the league. Craig Whitney is the dean of coaches here in the GSL now, and every year he has these guys ready to play. And some years he might not have as much talent. Sometimes he does, but he gets them ready to play. And they've got a second-year quarterback who's a senior now, Nathan Zettel, who grew into the position last year and looked better week after week, and is a senior leader now, and they expect really good things out of him. West Valley has some big offensive linemen. That's kind of what they've got going this year, and they'll use 3 or 4 different guys to run the ball. They won't be replacing Clark with just one guy, but they're doing it behind, I should say, stout offensive line. And the other thing to watch out for with West Valley is they've got 4 guys that can make 45-yard field goals. It's really kind of a ridiculous, a batch of riches. Yeah, I was out there, and this was kind of interesting during the summer. They were having a competition where all 4 of them would kick, and they would hit, and they would move a yard back, and they would kick, and they would hit, and they would move a yard back, and all 4 of them got out to 45 before they started to thin the herd out a little bit. So an embarrassment of riches there. But again, West Valley very well coached, and I expect them to be contending once again. Rogers, you said it right there. They've got tremendous skill players. They went up against 4A Davis opening night and kind of got their nose rubbed in it a little bit, but this is a team that wants to play fast on offense and defense. We talked a little bit about track guys on football teams earlier. 3 of their 4 wide receivers were on the 4x100 state third place track team. So they've got speed to burn, and it's interesting. Coach Ryan Cole, when I was talking with him earlier this year, He's like, in the years past when we had somebody get hurt, we just didn't have the bodies. We didn't have anybody to step in. He said, now if somebody goes down, we're just going to roll another state caliber sprinter into his place. So they're really trying to get that synergy between the football team and the track team. The offensive coordinator is the boys track team coach. The receivers coach is the girls track team coach. So they have that integration between the two teams. Um, the thing with Rogers is they're breaking in a quarterback. They've got a kid that's been in the system for a couple years, and he played a few series. They've got a kid that transferred into the program this year from Mount Spokane. He played a few series. It's the question for Rogers is going to be, can they get the ball into the hands of the guys that can make a difference this year?
Yeah, real contrast in styles. That should be a fun race to monitor between those two teams. And lastly, I wanted to ask you, we'll go to the 1A ranks and a program that had a run of double-digit win seasons was in the state championship game and lost to Royal a couple years ago. Jet Winger is back at Lakeside and 9 Mile Falls, but I think it was last year just kind of the 1 year dip. Expectations back to normal. This is a team that can win, 10, 11 more games and should be back in the state playoffs.
Well, they had a really good game week 1, and I think the situation there is right when they were in the state championship game. That team was all seniors, right? It was a once in a generation type of deal. Last year, their first losing season, as you mentioned, in a dozen, and Winger is as good an athlete at that level as there is across the state. They've got a first year starting quarterback there that I think is going to do a really good job, and the only complicating factor that I see for Lakeside this year is the football coach, Devin Bauer, was also named as the athletic director this year. So that's always a tough double dip there, but he'll get them ready. And I think also in 1A, I think Colville's going to be pretty good this year too. They had a really nice week 1 start, and that we kind of had an interesting situation over week 1. Is that six of the 2A teams played and only one of them won, and they were all losing to 1A teams over here. So 1A might be making a bounce back this season over here.
Yeah, Colville. Ben Brock was a young assistant coach and won the league championship last year in his very first year. Kind of throwing the ball around. Sounds like they're going to go a little more back to the run, but Colville, Lakeside, looking to battle in that 1A Northeast League. The guy that has Spokane football nailed down, giving you information and grows here, Dave Nichols. Thanks so much for joining us and giving us a scouting report on all the teams that we expect to see playing well into November and hopefully with good fortune into December in Seattle. I appreciate the time.
Well, happy to do it, and sorry we got off to a little late start this morning, but always happy to join in.
Well, now we're back to our week 2 high school football in Washington segment. And a guy that's going to be on VarsityWA Podcast a lot, both on our midnight Friday night podcast and during the week, Matt Evans from Evans Rankings, the computer rankings, genius, guru. He's already putting out rankings. They're already better than the RPI. Are the RPI even out yet? No, they're going to wait a few weeks. No. So, welcome, Matt. How's everything in Tri-Cities? I hear that you are pretty close to moving into a new house. Pretty exciting time for you, man.
Yeah, really excited. I got blessed with an amazing lightning storm last night as a going away present from the Tri-City gods, and yeah, we're moving into our new house tomorrow over in Kennewick. So I'll give on the Twitter, I'll give a behind the scenes look of the new Evans Rankings Media Center when that gets put together.
Oh, cool. Well, congratulations. A lot of new hardware there, both new house and new look. Well, let's start with the game that Lauren and I are going to be at Friday. It's going to be the VarsityWA Week 2 Game of the Week. And these teams have played now. This will be the 4th time they've played a non-conference game. The power hitters from Lake Stevens traveling to Bellevue, the 2023 3A champ. Lake Stevens had won the first 2 games, some pretty exciting games, actually, the first 2 years. And then last year Bellevue with the big offensive line and Max Jones kind of wore him down, kind of pushed him around a little bit. What are some of your thoughts about this particular matchup, especially after what you had seen from Lake Stevens in the Sumner game week 1?
I was very surprised with Lake Stevens, to be honest with you. I was thinking, I mean, I knew it was going to be a close game, but I thought that Lake Stevens was kind of, I didn't think that they had as much talent as they have had in the past. And they just willed themselves as a team to, drive the field down that last one, that last drive to the last second touchdown, which was just incredible theater. This is a huge one for them. I mean, it goes without saying, but with the top end of the 4A brackets this year, this could be a game that could solidify them a top 4 seed if they win it. If not, I mean, I don't see them below 6 or 7 at the lowest, but this is a game that's going to be a huge resume builder.
Yeah, I agree. Lake Stevens, I think the win last week will give them a lot more credibility with the selection committee down the road. This could be, like you said, this could be if they could go to Bellevue and win at Bellevue. They're in the driver's seat for a couple home games in the playoffs. What I do like about this Lake Stevens team, and it's kind of interesting because I think they're the bigger team this time around. Bellevue's very young on both lines. They have one senior and a lot of sophomores. They really, really like this sophomore class. In fact, Coach Michael Knipe told me he thinks this sophomore class has a chance to be the best class that Bellevue's had since Buddha's class. And that was over 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's how highly they think of this class. But still, they're a bunch of sophomores. How is that offensive line going to hold up against that really aggressive defensive line? Led by Tauaolo, the transfer from Snohomish, who's who just wrecks plays. And I think that's where Lake Stevens has an advantage in this game, Matt. We're going to see a lot of speed. Blake Moser, I think, really surprised Sumner last week with his speed. He can move around. They have some design runs for him. He had almost 100 yards rushing last week. I think that's going to be a number you're going to see a lot from him this year. He's got a lot of speed in the receiving core, and then the Farrell kid has some real wiggle to him in the backfield. It's a little different style of Lake Stevens team in terms of they're probably a little quicker to hit the hole and go. Whereas Jay Sean Lamar was more of a smooth, patient back and a little more. He ran with a little more power than the Farrell kid, but yeah, it's going to be. I think we're going to see a lot of big plays in this game, but I think in the end, I think Lake Stevens' size on both lines is going to give Bellevue trouble, and I actually think Lake Stevens is going to go to Bellevue and win and go to 2-0.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that I think it'll be a close game until the end, but yeah, I do see maybe a 10 to 14 point win for Lake Stevens.
Okay. And then now, we're talking about the 3A, 4A crossover. Another one, except this time 3A Mount Tahoma travels to 4A Camas, the 4A GSAHL champions and the team that was in the state championship game last season. I think this is as equally intriguing matchup. What are some of the things that you're looking for from this game down at Doc Harris Stadium?
I think that similar to the last game, I mean, this is a huge preseason seeding game here. More for Mount Tahoma, because, I think that if they win, they're a solidified top 4 team, in my opinion. They just ran roughshod on Yelm last week. If you get a win over the defending 4A runner-up from last year, I mean, that's just a huge resume builder for them. For Camas, I mean, it's a huge game as well because, I mean, like we said with Lake Stevens, the top end of that, you need to have some good, impressive resume wins to be up there consider for those top 4s. And no matter what, whoever wins this game, it's gonna be great for them. And honestly, whoever loses this game, they're still gonna be in a good spot. I mean, Mount Tahoma's got a couple more really, really solid non-league games, and then Lincoln coming up as well. That they're still gonna have a chance to make sure that they are in a good spot for a top four when that seeding committee rolls around.
Yeah, Camas really needs to win this game for their RPI, uh, the strength of the RPI, because their non-league schedule, they do play Lincoln, they do play Mount Tahoma, and when they scheduled the home and away with Roosevelt, on the back end of that home and away, I think they thought that was going to be another RPI builder. Well, that just hasn't turned out to be the case after all the sanctions that were leveled to against Roosevelt in the offseason. So, and I don't think the GSHL is going to be as good. I'm curious to see what Skyview looks like here. Moving forward with games, with GK and Puyallup here in the immediate future. But I think the 4A GSHL is a little bit down. So Camas really needs a win against a really strong Mount Tahoma team to kind of hang its hat on to say, hey, now they do play Westland, and you know, um, people that know that would be a quality win. But in terms of just Washington opponents, they really need to take care of business against a good Mount Tahoma team. I like this game. I think it's intriguing. Mount Tahoma has 8 guys that are 280 pounds or bigger. They are just massive with depth. But Camas has a couple transfer offensive tackles that are big. They're more of a downhill type blocking team this year, as opposed to getting in space and zone blocking and letting their perimeter guys kind of do their thing. So it's going to be kind of strength on strength, I think, in this game. You get 2 really mobile quarterbacks in Tyson Ruggiero, the transfer from Idaho, who's now at Camas, and then Micah Cordero, who sometimes, you watch him play and you're kind of like, what's he doing out there? But the guy just makes winning plays. He can run, he can pass. I like Mount Tahoma's perimeter guys maybe just a little bit better, but Camas at Doc Harris Stadium is so tough to beat. They just find another gear on that field. I think Camas finds a way to beat Mount Tahoma, but I think it's going to be a really good game that could easily go down to the final few minutes.
Yeah, I think that the key to this game, I'm going to set a number. If Mount Tahoma runs for 200 plus yards, they win the game. They ran for almost 300 or two. They ran for what 259 on last week against Yelm. I think that if they can establish the run and they can control the clock, control the game, then I could see them winning this game. Like you said, yeah, it's Doc Harris is an extremely tough place to play, but I think if anybody's set up for this with their senior leadership as well, I think it's Mount Tahoma that could take it to them.
And the final game that we'll look at is in your neck of the woods, Matt. It's that old 4A MCC rivalry game, Chiawana and Kamiakin. And I think this one's at Edgar Brown Stadium in Pasco. Chiawana coming off a state semifinal appearance last year, easily could have been in the championship game. Return a fair amount of those guys. What do you think about? You're the Tri-Cities guy, man. What do you think about this game? Up until last year, this was a really, really fun, seemingly low scoring game. But last year, Chiawana kind of took it to them en route to a real dominant season after that opening loss to Rocky Mountain in Idaho.
Yeah, I think that Chiawana is the clear favorite in this game. I think that the biggest thing is going to be we're going to see who this Kamiakin team is, because they came out last week and it was just a 4-point win over Walla Walla. And I can't really say whether that was a negative thing for Kamiakin or maybe more of a positive thing for Walla Walla, but I think this is going to be a good litmus test for them. Kamiakin starting their freshman quarterback, Jagger McEwen. Are they going to get? Is he going to have enough time in the pocket to be able to get the ball out to Mason Severson or Michael Corey? That's going to be the thing. Can they give him the time? Is Chiawana going to be able to overwhelm the pocket? That's going to be the key to the game. It's going to come down to the line. Kamiakin graduated 4 of their 5 offensive linemen last year, maybe all of them, and it's they've got some like they're older, they're juniors and seniors, but they don't have a lot of playing experience. So it's going to be interesting to see how how Kamiakin can, if they can keep their quarterback upright.
Yeah, the intriguing part for me is you look at Gage Williams. I mean, big guy, power runner, and throw the football. Big, powerful guy. Anthony Godino, big power running back, the type of back that Scott Bond can say, okay, you're getting 20 carries tonight. Cooper Sisney, who is a change of pace back. We all know what he can do in the secondary, the first freshman to ever be voted on the first team, all MCC team in 4A, 3A. I just don't know how Kamaikan stops these guys, Matt. I mean, especially a young group that Kamaikan has. And those guys, those two are seniors. They're men. And they're going to have to try and tackle men, 30, 35 times in this game. And sooner or later, I think that the dam's going to break, and you're going to see some big plays from either one of those or both. And then they can start sprinkling in some of their speed guys. It's funny because I talked to a lot of people that thought that, when the Cooper, McPherson, and the running back, the best player in the league last year, graduated.
Feldman. Yep.
Yeah, Braxton Feldman. He was a dude that Chihuahua was going to take a step back. And I just kind of went, did you not see their juniors play? Did you not see their really good freshmen? I think this team has a chance to go as far, if not further, than they did last year. If Gage Williams can be efficient, and that's something that he showed as a passer in the offseason and during spring ball, enough that Scott Bond really had no choice but to make him the full-time quarterback. I think I'm with you on this one. I think that the Riverhawks cruise by 3 touchdowns in this game. Maybe the last year that they kind of have the upper hand on Kamaikan as those young guys season.
Yep, 100%.
Well, that's it. Those are our 3 games that we're looking at in week 2. I want to thank Matt Evans for joining us this week on the podcast. We will see you Friday night to recap some of the good moments and surprising scores of week 2.